truths.
Hi everyone, it's Sonia here. Well, I wanted to talk to you about this vaping problem in the news lately. There have been some very alarming stories about people having health problems and even dying from vaping. So I want to give you the lowdown on what I know at this point. So there had been originally 250 people who got sick, and then the number went up to 450, including 6 deaths. So it's kind of weird because, hey look, I vape too, and vaping's been around for quite some time. I think I got my first vape back in 2009. At that time it was from China, and it looked like a cigarette. And I had personally never heard of anyone getting sick or dying from vaping. And what I had read was that the vaping, whatever's in there, the vape juice, the vaping process, it contains 95 to 99% less toxins than cigarettes do. And we all know that cigarettes cause death. And so a lot of us who had been smokers, wanting to quit smoking for a long time, switched to vaping. And for me, I find this is a good alternative. I'm glad that I don't smoke anymore. But you know, when a story comes out like this saying that people are getting sick and dying because of vaping, of course I was also really concerned, because I switched to vaping hoping that it's better for me, and I don't want to just suddenly then, you know, die because of my pod. So I looked into this, and what I found was that they said, first of all, a lot of the people who got sick were really young. It's included a lot of teenagers. A lot of them had actually been vaping THC or some kind of cannabis product, not just the old nicotine. And as they looked into this more and more and they tested what was in their vapes, they discovered that a lot of them contained something called vitamin E acetate. And vitamin E is an oil-soluble vitamin, and vitamin E acetate is oil-based. So it's possible that what's going on is that people are vaping something that contains oil. And this is very possible because this young man who nearly died from a vape-related lung injury turned out to have something called lipoid pneumonia. Lipoid meaning fat-related. So what happens is if there's some fat in your e-juice or your whatever you're putting in your vape, and you vape this is really bad for you, and this will, you know, you're putting oil into your lungs, which isn't meant to be there, and you can get a kind of pneumonia from the oil in your lungs, and then this can actually kill you. So being as concerned as I was, I called a friend of mine who makes vape juice. And notice all these cases had been in America and not in Canada. But I called her and I said, what is the deal here? What's going on? Is what we're vaping safe? And what she told me was that it's more regulated here in Canada, less in the States. And especially when it comes to cannabis products, when you're making the vape juice itself, it's nicotine, propylene glycol, and glycerin. But the problem is when people put flavorings in them. And there are lines of flavorings which are water soluble, which are made for vape juice. But there are other lines of flavorings out there, such as she mentioned a line called Luan, which are actually meant for cooking. And they do contain oils, and you do not want to put them into your vape. And so she said that people in the vape community are aware of this. The people who make vape juice, they know not to put oil in there, and so they make sure not to use flavorings that have oils in them. They get it from a reputable source, and they're very careful because no one wants to die of lipoid pneumonia, and no one wants to give lipoid pneumonia to their clients. And what she told me is she thinks the problem may be because a lot of these cases had to do with cannabis vaporization. Now there's a problem, because if you're taking something like CBD oil, that's an oil right there. You shouldn't be vaping it. And really any cannabis product has some amount of oil in it. So what could be happening is that it could be people making their own vape juice using the wrong kinds of flavoring agents that contain oils. It could be because they're using cannabis products and vaping them, and those contain some amount of oils. like I said, CBD oil doesn't go in your vape. So people need to be aware of the very real risks of putting oil in a vaporizer. And of course, the regulatory agencies are doing what they can to make sure that the products that are available for purchase are safe. And as far as we know, in Canada, there hasn't been a problem and things are monitored. And, you know, but there is this bit of concern, like, well, what exactly is in here? But the thing is, for someone like me who's smoked, and I know that smoking will kill you, I'd rather be vaping. And the sad thing is that some people might get so scared that they might go back to smoking. Because let's face it, when you're addicted to nicotine, it could be between the cigarette and the vaporizer, and having nothing might really not be an option. So I'm hoping that they're going to get this sorted out so we know that we're vaping something that's safer than cigarettes. Cigarettes will kill you in a long term, you know. It takes years for cigarettes to kill you. So when you smoke that cigarette, you feel like, well, nothing's going to happen right now. But if you're so scared of vaping, you're thinking, I might vape this and be dead in 3 days, you might go back to cigarettes. And that would suck. I wouldn't want to do that myself. So let's hope that they figure out what is the problem and make sure that the vape products are safe. And I just want to give you a heads up, keep the oil out of your vape. That's it. Thanks for listening to me. Thanks for your support on Patreon. And I'll see you next time.